Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to do something a little bit different for you today. Now, I've been getting asked a lot recently about webcam settings, how to get the best possible picture quality. Now, for those of you who probably are aware, if you've literally just been out and bought yourself either the Logitech BRIO, which is the one that I use, the c920, c922, whatever webcam it is, this is specifically mainly for Logitech though. You've probably got it out of the box and been like, this just looks not good. Well, there's lots of ways that you can tweak your webcam to get the most optimum settings out of it. One thing I will say before you start looking into any settings, please always make sure you've got some decent lighting in front of you. Lighting is the main key. And I have 4 lights in front of me. I've got 2 big soft boxes and I've got 2 small flat LED panel lights, which basically they just light this whole room up. They're absolutely fantastic, and they're great, these types of lights, because they don't blind you as well, and it's just what you're going to need. But let's dive into the settings. So this is for those of you that are using OBS. First of all, if you've just got your Logitech webcam, make sure you head over to the Logitech website, go onto their downloads page and grab all the relevant drivers and software that you need. Once you've installed those, then go over to OBS and we'll have a little bit of a play around and I'll show you how to get the best possible optimum settings out of it. Now, this is going to be your main bit in OBS. Those of you that probably think this looks a bit scary if you've not used it before, just work your way around it. It's not quite as daunting as what you might think. Now, the first thing you want to do is come over here to you might have labeled that as webcam. I've just literally have it captured the same video capture device. Now, what you want to do is you want to right click on there. You want to head over to properties. And then you want to just configure your video. That's where your webcam settings are. But before you do that, some very important things to note here. Now, the one thing you want to make sure you've got your resolution on custom resolution. Now, if you've got the BRIO, it is capable of doing 4K. For the videos I use, I don't need to do them 4K. Plus, it's quite intensive on your video editing then. So to make it as quick as possible, just stick with 1080p, I would say. So you want your resolution to be set there at 1920 by 1080. As you can see, there are a lot that the Logitech BRIO does support. Why the fuck they wanted to put 160 by 120, I will have no idea. But if you just wanted to do a 1080, you want it to be at 1920 by 1080. FPS, that's obviously going to be your frame rate. Now, the BRIO does support 60. I've played about with a few different ones. Personally, I still prefer 30 frames per second. Now, your video format, you can choose any of those, but you do tend to get the best settings and the best results out of JPEG. Color space, I personally use 709, and for the color range, I use partial. Don't quite like full. It seems to look ever so slightly cloudy for some strange reason. You can leave the rest of the settings, obviously depending on whether you're going to be using a separate mic or not, because all of the Logitech webcams, as many other webcams, do actually have a built-in mic. So that's your starting point before we go into the settings to get your webcam just looking as nice as possible. Now, let's start having a play around with your settings. Now, you'll see when you first go into this, the settings are somewhat auto configured. I've never liked the standard settings that it comes with. You can always make it much better. So first of all, you'll come into your camera control. Make sure that your zoom is just there. I mean, you can zoom in if you need to, but I mean, who wants to see that? Don't want to see that close to my face. Ooh. No. We keep it nice and zoomed out. Now you'll notice that you can actually see my screen there, but I've actually got it stretched out so you cannot see that. Now your focus, make sure you've got that on 0, because otherwise, if you have it obviously out of there, it's going to make your image look absolutely terrible. You can put it on auto, but I really don't like that because it goes in and out quite a lot, especially if you're moving about quite a bit. Literally just untick that. bring it all the way down to 0, and then you will be all good. Exposure, you do generally find 5 is the sweet point. You'll find if you, say for instance, you bring it up to 4, see, it makes it that bit lighter and it's not quite as smooth. Bring it anywhere down, it's just too dark and you can't see shit. So you want to make sure that's at 5. One thing to note as well, every time you start up OBS, that it will not save these particular settings for some reason. I'm hoping that's something Logitech are going to work on, because I do personally love the Logitech products. This is the second Logitech webcam I've used. Used to use the c922, which is really good. Now, if you have got some lighting, make sure you take off this little bit here, low light compensation, untick that. Basically, you want this particular software and your webcam to have to do as little work as possible. So any sort of lighting adjustments that you're doing within it, that's fine. But when it comes to things like contrast, you want to have to use that setting as little as possible, then you're going to get the best possible picture quality out of your webcam. So if I want to come over here into the other section, video proc amp, as they call it. Now, I've got my brightness on 128, which is absolutely fine for me. You'll be different, because obviously you're going to have different lighting in the particular space that you use. Contrast, I always have had that down to 0 ever since I figured out how to, you know, get the picture quality looking good. I mean, as you say, if you fuck around with it, it's going to... I mean, if you want to make your clothes look a bit darker, it's great, again, but... that just doesn't look natural, does it? I mean, I bring my contrast all the way off, and that's the image quality that I get from it. Saturation, play around with that again, and you can have a play around with your white balance if you're not quite liking it. Same with the sharpness. Obviously, if you have it turned all the way down, you're just going to have a blurry face, and people want to see your face, man. They're watching you on the internet. Of course they do. Backlight comp and gain, again, you can have a little bit of a play around with it. Personally, I don't do anything with that. And there are other adjustments you can do from here. So once you've done that, literally click apply and OK, and you will be all good with it. As I said, there are some additional settings. You may not need to do it. If you've got some decent lighting, then you should be absolutely fine. But one thing you can also do to make it a little bit better, if you hover over here, your video capture device, right click again and click on filters. Now you can actually add some color correction to this, which it can work well for some. Again, it's not one I particularly use. I'll literally click it on because I did a few adjustments on it. It makes, colours are a little bit better, but I think, again, it doesn't look quite so natural. I do prefer that because it looks a little bit lighter. But basically, you would click add, and then you'd pop on colour correction, and here's the sort of things which you can mess around with, the gamma. I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, look. It really does change quite a few things the more that you do with it. Obviously, right now it's not switched on. Let's whack it on. So we'll whack it on, and there we go. It started to mess about with some things already. You can make it darker. You can make it lighter. There's your brightness. Obviously, it's just self-explanatory. Takes a bit of working if you want to get it right through this, but I mean, if you want to be a purple monster, there you go. There's your purple, rather than you doing it in your editing. But that's how you get your webcam looking quite nice and snazzy. I will be doing some more tutorials on things like audio, how to get the best out of Adobe Premiere if you're using that particular piece of software. I just thought it'd be cool to get a video out for everybody, just so you can see how you can get the best out of your webcam. I've followed a lot of tutorials since I started doing this around about 2 years ago, and I just thought it'd be nice to put something out there for those of you that, you know, maybe you're wanting to start streaming, you know, whether you're a gamer, you want to make reaction videos, and if you're not so sure, I just wanted to put a video out there for you guys. But if you've got any questions at all, please do drop it down in the comments. I would say, if you're looking at Logitech webcams, if you do want to go full 4K, then go with the BRIO, or if you literally just want one of the best, get the BRIO because it's a fantastic piece of equipment. But again, any of the other ones like the c922, I think it's like the c920E or something that they do now. I don't know if you can get that other one, and it might have been discontinued Obviously, they've always got new products coming out, and whenever I do look to upgrade, I'll always be, I'll make sure I do some future videos on those. But thanks for watching, guys, and for those of you that do follow the channel, I'll have some more reaction videos coming soon. Thank you very much. Cheers.